Okay, so picture this. It is February 1st, 2026. A Sunday. You're walking through a park. Sun is probably shining, birds chirping, the usual vibe. But
Mm-hmm.
you aren't just looking at the trees.
Okay.
You aren't just admiring the view. You are scanning.
Yeah.
You are analyzing the architecture of the leaves. You are, in your own words, a software plumber on a mission.
That is a very specific and, I have to say, a fascinating headspace to be in.
It is, and it is exactly where we're starting our deep dive today. We're looking at a really interesting corner of the internet, a blog called knm.org,
Right.
and specifically a post titled Notes on Gardening, Part 794, The Art of Tropical Lush Landscaping Style.
Wait, hang on. Did you say part 794?
794. And that is just the gardening notes.
Wow. That is intense. That's a lot of notes.
It's a staggering amount of documentation, and that's really the mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to give you a recipe for a garden.
Although you're saying we will get that.
Oh, we will do that. And it's a fascinating recipe. But we're also going to unpack the mind of the person writing it. Because when a software plumber, his words, looks at a garden, he sees things, well, differently.
He sees a system. He sees uptime, maintenance overhead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And paradoxically, he sees something technically perfect that he absolutely refuses to implement himself.
See, that's the twist. That's what really hooked me on this one. You've got this, perfect solution, verified by AI, optimized for efficiency.
And the architect himself just says, nope, not for me.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. We have the source, we have the date, February 2026, and we have our observer, Ang. Before we even talk about the plants, we really need to understand him.
I agree.
You mentioned that software plumber description. What does that actually tell us about his perspective?
Well, plumber in the tech world is a very specific and evocative term. It implies someone working on the back end, the pipes, the infrastructure that makes everything run. It's not the flashy front end stuff. It's the messy, critical core underneath. He says he tinkers with free Libre and open source software, or FLOSS.
Right, FLOSS.
And those are people who generally believe in transparency and looking under the hood. They want systems that are robust, community-built, and, fixable.
So if a pipe leaks, he wants to be able to fix the leak himself.
Yes. So when he looks at a landscape, he's probably not just thinking, oh, that's pretty. He's thinking, how is this plumbed? What's the resource usage? Is this code efficient?
Exactly. And if you look at the sidebar of his blog, which is essentially his digital brain dump, the scope of his interests is, well, it's wild.
He is a true Renaissance man of the digital age.
I was scrolling through the topics list, and it honestly gave me whiplash. You've got notes on Rust, notes on Erlang, notes on Haskell.
All these really heavy-duty, very logical programming languages.
Very precise languages.
Extremely. Haskell and Rust are known for being very strict. They do not let you get away with sloppy code.
And then right next to all that, notes on photography, notes on dieting, notes on guitar, and my personal favorite, fish keeping, specifically betta spawn logs.
That betta log is so telling. Breeding betta fish is not a set it and forget it kind of hobby,
No.
It requires patience, detailed observation of biology, careful environmental control. It shows he's not just a code monkey. He is deeply invested in biological systems, too. He tracks the spawning. He logs the data.
It just paints this picture of someone who is perpetually learning. He doesn't just dabble, he documents. He creates notes. Notes on meditation, notes on typesetting.
It suggests a mind that just needs to understand the underlying code of everything he encounters, whether that is a computer program or a fish tank.
So on this particular Sunday in 2026, he's combining those two worlds.
Right.
He is out on what he called a photo walk.
Right. To study landscape design, he's treating the park like an open source library. He's trying to reverse engineer.
Which is not just trusting his own eyes. This was a detail I loved. He mentions using AI to verify his observations. He looks at a plant, makes an initial guess, his initial observations, and then he cross-references it with results from AI.
It's the trust but verify principle applied to botany. He is treating the natural world like code that needs to be, debugged or audited.
He needs the correct metadata for every object. He isn't satisfied with, oh, that's a nice fern.
No, he needs to know if it's a splenium nidus.
And all that rigor leads him to identify a specific style. He calls it Tropical Lush.
Which, Tropical Lush sounds like a marketing term, right? Like something on a shampoo bottle.
It really does. But Ang breaks it down into a technical specification. So what are the parameters here?
Okay, so he identifies 3 core rules that define this system. Rule number 1, it prioritizes high contrast foliage.
Foliage, so leaves, not flowers.
Right. It's all about the green stuff, the structure. Rule number 2, year-round greenery. It has to look the same in January as it does in July.
High availability, 100% uptime.
Exactly. And rule number 3, which is let's say, the defining constraint. It avoids or minimizes seasonal flowering plants.
No flowers. That feels,
Hmm.
well, it feels almost counterintuitive for a garden. Isn't the whole point of a garden to have flowers?
Not if you're optimizing for consistency. From a systems perspective, flowers are bugs.
Flowers are bugs. That is a hot take.
Think about it. In terms of system stability, flowers are transient, they appear, they look great, then they die. They turn brown, they fall off.
They create a mess.
They introduce entropy, they create a mess on the ground. If you want a manageable system with maximum visual impact that never fails, you cut the flowers.
I see. So the goal here, as Ang notes, is a dense, layered look. It's meant to feel refreshing and tropical, but without the fragility of the bloom.
It is an efficiency optimization. You get the tropical vibe, the lushness, but you don't have the maintenance ticket of deadheading roses every weekend.
Okay, I get the theory. It's the server farm of gardening. Robust, reliable, always on. So what's the actual hardware?
Well, Ang breaks this down into a recipe. A specific arrangement he found that perfectly encapsulated this style.
And he categorizes them, which I love.
Of course he does. This is the systems thinker at work. He doesn't just list 6 plants, he groups them by function. He sees an architecture, focal points, textured backdrop, and fillers.
Like a software stack. You've got your front end, your back end, and your middleware. So let's start with the front end, the focal points.
Right, the stars of the show. He identifies the bird's nest fern, which is Asplenium nidus, and the dwarf pandan, Pandanus emeraldifolius.
The bird's nest fern, I know that one. It's that big green funnel, right?
Exactly. It's extremely architectural. The leaves are solid, apple green, and they sort of ripple out from the center. It catches the light. It's a solid block that anchors the whole scene.
And the dwarf pandan.
That's a sharp contrast. Pandan leaves are long, blade-like, and spiky. So if the fern is a circle, the pandan is a starburst.
So even without flowers, you're creating drama just by putting a round shape next to a spiky shape.
That is the high contrast he was talking about in his definition. It's geometric contrast. You don't need color contrast if the shapes themselves are, shouting at each other.
Okay, so we've got our focal points, but you can't just have those. You need a background. So ingredients 3 and 4.
The textured backdrop. This is where he places the crotons, specifically the garden croton and the narrow leaf croton.
Now, crotons are usually pretty colorful, aren't they? They're not just green.
They are. They often have yellows, reds, deep purples in the leaves. But Ang still categorizes them as the backdrop.
Why is that?
Because of their density. They grow like a wall. And by using 2 varieties, the standard broadleaf and the narrowleaf one, he's creating this complex, multi-layered canvas.
So it provides the volume, the visual weight.
Correct. And again, notice the precision. Codium variegatum. He's not guessing. He knows exactly which build of the software he is looking at.
So we have the anchors in the front, the wall in the back, but you've got that empty space in between.
The air gap, yes. That brings us to the fillers, ingredients 5 and 6.
The glue.
He lists shell ginger, that's Alpinia xerumbet variegata, and the variegated dwarf umbrella tree.
Okay, I'm noticing a keyword popping up again. Variegata.
You caught that. It is absolutely crucial to this style. Variegated just means the leaf isn't solid green. It has stripes or spots or edges of white, cream, or yellow.
It's a mutation, isn't it?
Biologically, yes.
Right.
But aesthetically, it's a hack. Remember, you're not allowed to use flowers.
Right.
So how do you get brightness into a dense green corner? You use variegated leaves. The shell ginger has these beautiful yellow stripes. The umbrella tree has splashes of cream.
So they act like little artificial light sources.
They break up the shadows. If it were all dark green, it would just look gloomy. The variegation adds a shimmer. It gives you the effect that flowers usually provide, but without the expiration date.
So let's look at the full stack then. You've got the structural ferns and pandans.
Yeah.
You have the dense, colorful croton wall. And you have the bright, variegated ginger and umbrella trees knitting it all together.
It's a complete composition. Ang notes offers maximum visual impact. It feels lush, it feels tropical, and because none of these plants rely on a 2-week blooming cycle, it looks exactly like this 365 days a year.
It sounds perfect, especially for a guy who writes notes on rust. This, a memory-safe garden. It won't crash in the winter.
It's the logical, optimized conclusion of landscape design. Efficient, manageable, impactful.
And Ang agrees. He asks in his post, Is this a style worth exploring? And he gives it a solid yes, calls it an excellent choice. But here comes the twist, the feature request that breaks the bill.
He won't do it.
He rejects it. He explicitly writes, not my preference for now.
Despite the efficiency, despite the low maintenance, despite the beauty that he just spent hundreds of words analyzing.
Why? Why does this systems engineer reject the perfect system?
Because he wants the bugs. He writes, I'm still leaning towards vibrant, blooming flowers.
He wants the chaos.
He calls the Tropical Lush style a foliage-heavy approach. And in that context, it almost sounds like a criticism. It's too static. It works too well.
This is such fascinating psychology, isn't it?
It is. It highlights the difference between what we admire intellectually and what we love emotionally. Intellectually, Ang dissects this style. He respects the code. He sees how it all fits together. But emotionally, it leaves him cold.
It lacks the dopamine hit of the bloom.
Exactly. A flower is a high-risk, high-reward asset. You have to water it, feed it, prune it. It might get a disease. It definitely will die. But for that 1 week when it just explodes with color,
it offers a sensation that a reliable fern never can.
Yes. It's the difference between a server that runs perfectly for 10 years and, I don't know, a live guitar solo. The server is valuable, it's essential, but the solo is what moves you.
And remember his other interests. Guitar, betta fish. Those aren't efficient hobbies. The Tropical Lush style creates a backdrop, but it doesn't create a moment.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I think it's interesting. He says, for now. Not my preference for now.
He leaves the door open. Maybe one day, when he's tired of the maintenance tickets, he'll patch his garden over to the stable version. But not yet.
I think there's a real lesson here for you, the listener, about observation. When Ang walked into that park, he didn't just see nice plants.
He saw a functional specification.
Wow.
And that's the big takeaway for me. You don't have to be a botanist to understand a garden. You just need to ask the plumber's question.
Right. What is this component doing?
Is it a focal point? Is it a filler? What's the uptime on this thing?
It turns a passive walk into an active analysis. You can look at your neighbor's yard and say, ah, I see, they have focal points, but no textured backdrop.
Exactly. You start seeing the source code of the landscape. And you can use tools. Ang used AI. There is no shame in pulling out your phone and just asking, what is this?
It also validates the idea that there's no best practice in art or, in lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can have a verified, AI-checked, architecturally sound design.
And it can still be the wrong choice for you?
Because user experience matters. And if the user you wants purple explosions of petals that fall off 3 days later, that is a valid feature requirement.
Even if it makes the maintenance logs messy.
Especially if it makes the logs messy. I mean, Ang has written 794 notes. He is clearly comfortable with documentation. Maybe he just enjoys having something new to report. Day 795. The hibiscus failed to compile.
Day 796. Attempting a reboot with more fertilizer. It keeps the hobby alive, right?
Totally. If the garden was perfect, he wouldn't need to write any more notes.
That is a profound point. The imperfection drives the curiosity. If it just works, you stop looking at it.
So we've unpacked the recipe. If you, the listener, want that tropical lush look, you know what to do. Get the bird's nest ferns, the pandans, the crotons, the shell ginger, and the umbrella trees.
You'll have a bulletproof green machine, a beautiful functioning machine.
But if you find yourself staring at that green wall and feeling a little bored, well, you're in good company with our friend Ang.
Go buy some seeds that might not grow.
Take the risk.
It is worth noting, too, just how inspiring this level of output is. We joked about 794, but think about the discipline to write nearly 800 detailed observations on just one of your 10 hobbies.
While also writing code in Haskell and Rust and playing guitar.
It suggests a mind that treats life itself as a project to be documented. He's not just skimming the surface. He's doing a deep dive on everything.
Which is what we aspire to do here.
And he's sharing it. That's the flawless ethos again. He is open sourcing his garden notes so we can learn from his analysis and from his rejections.
So as you go about your week, whether you're debugging code or just looking out the window, think about the Tropical Lush. Think about that trade-off between the stability of foliage and the chaos of flowers.
Ask yourself, are you optimizing for efficiency? Or are you optimizing for joy?
We live in a world that constantly pushes us toward the former. We use AI to streamline, we automate schedules, we try to make everything manageable. But here's a thought to leave you with. If we optimize our lives, like Ang optimizes his code for zero downtime and maximum efficiency, do we lose the very thing that makes life worth living? Should we maybe deliberately introduce some bugs into the system just to see what blooms?
Something to chew on.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.